All right, so today I'm just kind of casing the lawn today. It's still early spring and I'm looking for some of the most common weeds that generally show up in the early spring. Those for me here in the Midwest on a cool season lawn are usually going to be things like clover and wild violet and a few other things that you might have, but those tend to be the most common. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the hardware store. I'm going to get a couple of products that are going to help you take care of these weeds. Clover seems to be one of those weeds that a lot of people struggle with. It's actually a very easy weed to control in your desirable turf grass if that's what you want to do. So there's one product in particular I talked about on my previous video, and that's triclopyr is the active ingredient to help you get rid of clover, but it also works on one of the other most common weeds that you see in the spring, and that's going to be wild violet. So let's go take a look, go down to the hardware store, see what we've got in stock. I may even look at some fertilizers too, because I want to get just a little bit of nitrogen on this lawn, not too much, while the grass is still pushing a little bit of root development here in the spring. If you push too much top growth, it's going to cause some problems down the road, but I'm going to see what we've got going on, and then we're going to buy a couple of things, come back and apply those to the lawn. No shortage of options here as far as fertilizers, but the one I always go to right away is Scott's Green Max. The reason I like Green Max so much is because it has the high concentration of ammonium sulfate in this fertilizer, which is going to give us a quick green up. I really don't care so much about the iron. As you can see, only half of that iron source is water soluble, so you're really not going to see a lot of results out of the 5% of the granular iron in there, but it does have the sulfur. Sulfur certainly does help quite a bit with green up and the ammonium sulfate. So we're going to go ahead and grab this one today. $38.99 here at my local hardware store. Although there are several options here, certainly some more expensive ones and some cheaper ones, but I'm going to show you why when we get back to the lawn, why I like the Scott's Green Max so much. Now here's example number 2. No shortage of options for weed control. This is why people get so overwhelmed with shopping for herbicides. So here's a good rule of thumb, okay? Right over here you got your Roundup for lawns, right? A lot of this is just glyphosate. Roundup does have other products where it doesn't kill the grass, but the label Roundup makes it confusing. I like the Ortho products, okay? So if you're looking at the Ortho products, here's the one with the orange lid. The one with the orange lid has quinclorac in it, okay? This is gonna be your go-to product for crabgrass. Now the Ortho Weed Be Gone with the gray cap in it, okay? Gray cap has triclopyr in it. This is gonna be your go-to for clover and wild violet and anything that's kind of in the ivy family. Ortho with the gray cap is gonna be your go-to. All right, so we're back, as I mentioned, at the hardware store. When we were there, the Weed Be Gone were for chickweed, clover, and oxalis. This one has the triclopyr in it. This is the active ingredient that's going to work best for clover and ivy. So this is going to target the wild violet, and it's also going to target the clover. And then, of course, we have the orange cap that has the quinclorac in it, and quinclorac is really going to be the driving factor to get rid of the crabgrass if that should come up. So these are two concentrated mixes. I really don't like the ready to spray that you hook up to your hose. The little squirt bottles, those I'm sure they're fine. For me, just in my own head, this is the best way to do it. You get a little bit more for your money when you're mixing the concentrate, so you're going to need a piece of equipment really to work with this. Now, if you just want to use a pump sprayer like this one, totally fine. These work great. They're very cost effective and they work well, but I use this specific one for glyphosate, so we are not going to use that one on the lawn today. And actually, Chapin sent me this 2-gallon battery unit. It's got a 20-volt battery on board, so there's no pumping involved. Holds 2 gallons of solution, so I'm going to try this one out today while we're applying some of our weed control. And so really what I'm targeting is the clover. I'm going to go ahead and use the triclopyr solution. So if you read the label, always important to read the label. It will tell you what weeds that this product will control. It'll also give you rates. So on the Ortho Weed Be Gone for clover, this is going to be 1 ounces per 1 gallon of water in the tank. So I've already got a gallon of water in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to measure out 1 ounce. Now inside of the bottle, you can see there's some measurements inside of here. You may not be able to see that on camera, but there's my 1 ounce mark right there. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up to the 1 ounce marking and go ahead and put it in the sprayer. Now, if you wanted to target crabgrass and other weeds at the same time, you could tank mix both of these together at 1 ounce of each and put it into your 1 gallon, but I'm only going to be using the triclopyr today. I'll link up both of these products for you in the description so that you can go check them out, but you can go to any big box store and they're going to have these, and these are really going to be kind of your bulletproof strategy for most of the weeds that you're going to find in a cool season lawn. And then I'm also going to be adding some spreader sticker. This is an adjuvant or a surfactant, as most people call it. You just want to put a little bit of this in with your solution. This helps the active ingredient that's in the herbicide to cling to the leaf blade and allow it to absorb much faster. So you don't need a whole lot, really just a little bit. All right, once you got your solution prepped, just give it a shake, and we're ready to go. All right, I'll get a close-up of all of this, but I don't know if you can see in the camera right now. I've got a lot of clover up here by my fence line, and it all kind of runs down this hill. Really, all I'm going to do is just kind of spray this on here. I'm not going to soak it. Really just going to make sure I get some sort of mist here on the clover that I can see, and that should be good to go. And then over here, I've got a little bit of the wild violet hiding underneath these leaves. There's some wild violet in here, but really, I'm just going to want to make an application that gives me good coverage on everything, making sure not to over soak it, causing some of the chemical to run off. All right, so now moving on to the second step here in this video, I'm going to be applying some Scott's Green Max. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of the products, at least my favorite product from big box stores, because of the ammonium sulfate and the sulfur content you get in here with a little bit of soluble iron. But really the color response you're going to get is from the ammonium sulfate at 8%. It's pretty significant and has quite a bit of sulfur in it. So I don't want to apply a lot of nitrogen today, being that it's the spring. I'm really going to look for maybe a half a pound or a little bit less than that. So at this 16-pound bag, I'm going to use about 11 pounds of this bag of fertilizer in order to reach those goals. I've done some other videos on how to calculate fertilizer and nitrogen rates. I'll link those up for you if you want to go check that out on how to do that and be precise with your application. But because we're applying such a low rate today, when I apply low volumes, I usually use something like this, right? This is something cheap spreader you can get from most big box stores, because we're going to be applying really 5 pounds to the backyard and 5 pounds to the front yard. It really doesn't make sense to get out a spreader. This is going to be a little bit easier for you to apply, and really, because the prills in the Scott's Green Max are so small, it's going to be a little bit more accurate of an application. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When you look at the prill size of Scott's Green Max, look how tiny those prills are. It's just essentially a greens grade fertilizer that you can buy off the shelf. So Scott's products are actually pretty good in that, right? There's not a ton of filler in this. It's got all the right ingredients in it. You're going to get a great response out of the ammonium sulfate that's in here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply, like I said, we'll do about 5 pounds in the front yard, 5 pounds in the backyard, and then we'll check back in a couple days and we'll see the results of our green up from the fertilizer, and then we'll also look at the results of our weed control from the ortho. All right, so essentially that's really all there is to it. And what I'm calling this right here, these two products that I mentioned in the video, these are kind of my bulletproof strategy for off-the-shelf weed control when it comes to most of the common weeds that are in cool season lawns. You have your quinclorac here in the orange label, and you have your triclopyr here in the gray label. These are the ones that are going to help you control most of the weeds that you might see in a cool season setting. And then I did actually really like this Chapin 20-volt 2-gallon sprayer. You certainly don't need something like this. A hand pump sprayer is going to work just fine. Chapin sent me this one to try out, so I'm going to be using it throughout the year and give you my opinion. But for right now, just as a first use, as an introductory, I thought it was a really nice piece of equipment. And then with the Scott's Green Max, went ahead and got just a little bit of nitrogen on the lawn today. As I mentioned before, you don't want to go too crazy with the nitrogen in the spring. Your cool season lawn is going to have a surge growth here very soon. You're going to be getting lots of top growth on your lawn, and you don't want to be giving it too much nitrogen at that time, because then you're going to sacrifice some of the root development, which could lead to some issues for you down the road. So I have enough product left in my bag. It's going to get me another round of nitrogen here in about 5 to 6. I could even push that to 8 weeks if I wanted to, depending on how things are going. But if you get a really quick warm snap, as we often do here in the spring, it's going to cause your grass to really push a lot of flush growth So you really want to stay away from that. So that's really going to conclude it for today's video. I went over the products to buy from the store, how to apply it, how to put out a little bit of nitrogen here in the spring. A lot of this is going to be targeted towards you new homeowners or people who are just really starting to get into lawn care. I'm going to be doing a lot of content on how to get the best results for the least amount of money and effort this year. That's really what I'm going for. A lot of people are cutting back, but maybe you still want to have a nice lawn. I'm going to be giving you lots of tips and tricks on how to do that. As a lawn care professional, every day in our lives, we are trying to get the best results out of the least amount of expenses possible. And so I'm going to be showing you a lot of how we do that in the pro trade as we do here in the DIY segment. So stick around, there's more videos coming along. I appreciate you watching the video. Don't forget, give me a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to follow along for more videos, and I'll see you all in the next one.